In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can play more consistent golf shots, not just with your irons, but your woods and driver also. And it's all to do with how we can control this club face throughout impact and our golf swing. And this is a follow-up video from a video that I did based on the club path and how the club path works in your golf swing that I did a couple of months ago. So thank you very much to everyone who commented asking for this next part on how we can control the club face. Whether you're a fader of the golf ball or would like to produce a fade or draw, I'll be covering both of these to help you play more consistent golf shots. So if you're new to the channel, I'm Harry, a golf teacher professional helping golfers improve their games. Be sure to hit the subscribe button or consider hitting the subscribe button if you find these tips and drills useful for your own game. And it also helps me produce more content just like this. Now, taking a look at the screen here now, I've got two settings shown on this, and this is the numbers on TrackMan on the left-hand side of the screen, the face angle, the face to path, and the club path. And also, it says no shot selected on the right, but this will show a video of the club coming into the golf ball at impact. So we can see exactly whereabouts our club face is at the moment of impact. And this is so crucial. Club face angle is so crucial, as for a 6-iron it plays around a 75% influence on your actual golf shot, and with the driver it plays even more of an influence, as much as 85%. So when I just hit a shot here now, I'm hoping I'll just play a little bit of a draw shot, and we should see the club coming into the golf ball at an angle where the club is ever so slightly, the club face itself is ever so slightly more closed to the path. So when we have a look at the numbers on the screen there, the club path being 4.6, that's 4.6 in the plus. So that indicates a club path number of 4.6 degrees in to out. So favouring that draw by its shape, that draw, that in to out path. Face angle being 1.2 degrees. That face angle being at 1.2 degrees isn't actually close to the target, but it is closed to the path. The idea of controlling the club face is ensuring that the club face is pointing somewhere at impact in between your target line and your club path. We want to be getting golf shots curving to the target as opposed to curving them away. And too many golfers get this wrong. They think that they need that club face beautifully square, perfectly square, I mean 0.0 degrees square at the moment of impact. That's great if you're able to get your club path perfectly on plane every single time, but not even the pros do this. You notice the best players in the world, they always have a very consistent shot shape. Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, they usually play with a draw shot, whereas the likes of Jon Rahm play with a big fade because they can rely on that fade or draw every single time. The numbers don't need to be perfect for them to produce those golf shots. They just need to make sure that that club face itself is in between the target line and the path. When we have a look at the actual shot outcome there, that should show a golf shot with a 6-iron going very close to the target. Yep, you can see that the ball starts right of target, it curves pretty close to the target, goes a little bit further away. So when we have a look at the face to path ratio on the bottom left hand side of the screen now, at minus 3.5, that means the club face is 3.5 degrees close to the path. We want to get the face to path number around 2 to 2.5 degrees to produce a really consistent ball flight. If it's any more than 2.5 degrees, then we start to get a little bit of an overdraw that tends to finish on the other side of the target line. So for example, that draw shot that I've just hit there, having a look at that golf shot on the screen now, it sets it off right, it's curving back, but it's just curved a bit too far on the other side of target. Still a really good shot, and I take that every day of the week of a 6-iron, especially from the likes of 190, 200 yards that I would be hitting a 6-iron. But to ensure you're getting that consistency, you're going to be looking at the face to path ratio of around that 2 to 2.5 degrees mark. So for a fader of the golf ball, let's place the club delivery on the right-hand side of the screen for this shot. And I'm not really a fader of the golf ball, so I'm going to try really hard to get the club path in the minus, so out to in, and the face angle a little bit open to the path, but still closed to the target. So I'm having to open up my stance for this one, but let's see if we can do it first time. So that one there, having a look on the screen there, you can see that that was a little bit of a heel strike, unfortunately, just trying to conjure up something in my swing that I'm not quite used to doing, but also the club path itself at minus 3.3, that's 3.3 degrees out to win. So I was able to get the club path swinging out to win. However, the face angle is severely closed. So when we have a look at the face to path ratio, it's close to how we had it previously at the minus 3.1 mark. Before it was minus 3.5 for that draw. Now me trying to produce a fade, which is probably going to be a pull hook when we have a look at the shot in just a sec, but the face to path ratio is minus 3.1 degrees. And we want the face to path ratio for a fader of the golf ball to be around 2 to 2.5 degrees in the plus. So the club face is open 2 to 2.5 degrees in relation to the path. So to produce a solid fade from that club path, I need the face angle to be around minus 1.5 degrees, ideally, or maybe a little bit more so, just so the golf shot curves left and then finishes back on the target. And taking a look at the golf shot then on the screen now, we can see that I've tried very hard to get that curvature back to the right. And surprisingly, it has curved a little bit, probably due to the strike. That's caused the spin axis to tilt, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. But assuming that was a center strike, that would have curved too far to the left. So I'm going to see if I can hit another one now, just to get that fade, and we'll talk about the fade in a little bit more detail, and then we'll dive into how we can control that club face for whichever shot you play with. So let's see if I can do it this time, leaving the face a bit more open. Okay, so there's a good example of me actually getting that out to win path around the 3 degree mark again, but the face angle I've actually left open to the target as well as my path. So the face to path number there is 3.4 degrees. So again, I've opened the face a little bit too much in relation to the path. So on this shot here, when we have a look at the screen on the right hand side now, yeah, I've produced a very big slice. So my club face is open to the target, and that's caused too much curvature to the right. So for a player that's trying to play a consistent fade, wants to see the golf ball start left, with a club path number of around 3 degrees, I would say, or 3.5 degrees, but the face angle needs to be a tolerance of 2 degrees open to the path. Anything more than that, we start to see a lot more curvature like that one on the screen. Not enough, we start to see the golf ball just go straight left. So if you're someone with the aim of playing a draw, you're trying to draw the golf ball, or your great shots out on the golf course are draw shots. You've been working on your club path from the video over here that you watched previously about a month or so ago, working on getting the club a little bit more under plane, and then through out to the right to ensure you're getting that in to out path. And sometimes what you'll find is that if you leave the club face square with the path, so when we have a look at the numbers on the screen, if they're the exact same, so if the club path and face angle show the same numbers, then that's going to produce a straight shot. But if they're, let's just say, 3.5 degrees in to out, 3.5 degrees open, it's just going to go straight right. So how can we ensure that we get enough curvature back to target? We don't want the club face to close down too much and be square to the target, but we want the club face to be somewhere in the middle, like we mentioned before. So for those of you drawers of the golf ball, to control the club face, especially with the irons for this in particular, we'll dive into driver a little bit in just a sec, but as we make our way down into the golf swing, we want to be ensuring that we are not leaving the club face too open. Because when we leave the club face too open, you can see here when I bring the club down this way with the GX logo here facing upwards, club face is left open, so I'm more likely to push it out to the right. But we also do something to try and counteract it, which is stopping the body turn and flipping the hands. And that's when we close the club face down too much and it goes too far left. So to find the middle ground, I'd recommend working on going into the downswing with the main focus of ensuring that this right palm here is setting facing more towards the ground. Because when we notice this action here open up the club face and I take the club away, my right palm faces up towards the ceiling. So we want to be ensuring that at the top of the swing, our right palm is facing upwards, so we can get the right palm to face downwards on the way down into the downswing. And then from this point here, We just want to be ensuring that we're holding the angle on the way through. Because when we set the right palm like this here, it ensures of two things that we can do with the irons. It ensures that we can compress the iron shots a lot more so, because it encourages us to forward the hands a lot more. But also, when we set the right palm the way it does, it actually helps the club face get back to square. So controlling the club face, we don't want to see any of this club head itself overtaking the hands. We still want to see the hands ever slightly ahead of the club face, but that promotes a slightly open face. So then when we work on the right palm, that helps you bring the club face back inwards. So it's almost the feeling of, once we get to the top, right palm sets downwards, like this here. Now the GX logo is facing more towards the golf ball, and we're rotating through to finish. And it'll take a few shots just getting used to this, but I assure you that once you get used to it, you're going to see way more consistent golf shots. So right palm up to sky, up, down to the ground, and then holding that angle and rotating through to finish. Let's see if I can produce the same shot I did previously with the draw doing this. There we go. So that was me really exaggerating the right palm to ground and trying my best there to hold that angle on the way through. I didn't necessarily need to think about the path of my swing because I'm a drawer of the golf ball. Anyway, I tend to swing a little bit more in to out as opposed to out to in. So taking a look at the numbers there, let's have a look at that one. So club path was a little bit more so, which is quite interesting, but the face angle was still open to the target. Face to path is a little bit too much at 4.8 degrees to the left, and that's why the golf ball finished to the left-hand side of the target. But it's still a pretty good shot. I'd take that again, but when it comes to the longer stuff, if my face to path ratio was above 3 degrees, I'd have no chance of hitting the fairway. So for faders of the golf ball, you've been so used to practicing that motion on the way down where you're trying to set the club a little bit more in front of you to produce that fade shot and then rotating on the way through from that path video. And you're probably finding two outcomes. You're probably finding that the golf shots are going straight left because we're releasing the club a little bit too early, or we're doing the same angle with our wrists, where we're setting them like this with the GX logo facing upwards, opens up the club face, we continue rotating, and that club face is well open to the path, causing that slice. So how do we control it for the fade shots? How do we control the club face for the fade shots? Well, to do this, forgetting that I'm a drawer of the golf ball, I'm going to set up very neutral in relation to my target. I'm not going to try and open my stance or close my stance to try and conjure up the flight. I just want to be ensuring that my club face is obviously closed to the target, but obviously open to the path to get that curvature left to right and for it to finish on the target. Now to do this, I would encourage working on the same motion of right palm to sky, right palm to ground, but obviously setting it in a different way, where we're bringing the club slightly more out in front, like we spoke about in the path video. If you haven't watched that, I'll leave a link in the description below, but also at the end of the video. But if you're obviously a drawer, you'd be setting it more this way. And once we set the club here, the idea is I would always encourage a fade to almost feel like I'm dragging the handle more left, like this here. Because as soon as we get the right palm more involved, it's going to encourage the face to close down a little bit too much. Great for drawers, not so great for players that are trying to fade the ball. So think of that butt end of the club always staying ahead, and that's going to keep the club face open enough and the right palm set in the correct way. It's going to help keep the face nice and controlled and therefore stopping it from curving too far to the right. So for faders of the golf ball, still focusing on the right palm, but from this position here, you're dragging the handle around to the left. The last thing you want to do is try and leave the club face in this position here well open with the GX logo facing upwards, because then you're fighting the shanks, you're trying to release afterwards, and it'll cause too many poor outcomes. Very similar to the draw. So up to the top, right palm to ground, drag the handle left. Let's see if I can produce a better fade shot. Oh, that's definitely better. You can see just from the shadow of that golf shot, That has definitely curved a little bit more left to right. So I'm really pleased with that one actually. And unfortunately, the numbers weren't showing on that golf shot, but there was definitely a ratio of around, I would say, face to path number, of around +1 to 1.5 degrees, just to see that touch of curvature from left to right. So my path was probably about 2 degrees out to in, with my face angle being a degree probably open to the path. And that's just allowed me to get that touch of curvature left to right. And just before we move on to the driver, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of the channel, GX Golf. They provide high quality golf clubs for a fraction of the price in comparison to the rest on the market. Using my discount code below, Harry10, you can get yourself a great 10% discount on all their bundled packages. So whenever you're in the market, I'd highly recommend you check them out. Now for the woods and driver, are very, very similar. So I'm just going to cut straight to the driver, because what I teach you with the driver is also going to apply for the woods in particular. And the idea behind this is that the tolerance levels in terms of the ratios of face to path, if they go outside of 3 degrees, like I mentioned earlier, you're not going to be hitting fairways. Well, I won't be anyway, because of how far I hit the golf ball. And this is what makes the tour play so consistent and unbelievably good at off the tee, because their face to path ratio is probably 1 to 2 degrees every single time when they're playing. And when they hit it off target, it's probably 3.5, 4 degrees. So just a single degree can have a huge difference on where the golf ball finishes. Remember, the club face of a driver has 85% influence. So what I would suggest doing when you're working on this with the driver, the bonus tip for this is just focusing on swinging slowly. Swinging slowly, getting the same feels. Again, with driver, we're going to be stance ever so slightly wider just to help with the stability. And as we're setting up to the golf ball, I would not encourage any of this tilted motion here. Just having the ball positioned further forward allows the shoulders to stay a little bit more tilted anyway. Whether you're a drawer or a fader of the golf ball, you want to be practicing this, rehearsing those movements in stages, building it up into a full swing very slowly. Imagine you're going to be hitting one around 10% just to begin with, and then build it up in stages up until the full swings. And if you do notice them go very low, a little bit left, a little bit right, that is absolutely fine. They're going low because you're practicing on technically reducing the loft on the club. I'm going to teach you now how we can help increase that. So one final shot, full swing. I'm just going to go for the draw ball flight, just because that's something that I play with anyway. Just practicing those feels, right palm to ground. Let's see the outcome. Nice little draw to finish off with. And on that one there, I wasn't trying to hold it off as much with driver. I was allowing the club to rotate over a little bit more, allowing the club to whip through, but you should find that comes into place naturally. So if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as there's lots more content coming your way every single week. We've spoken about the path. We've spoken about the club face angle. Why don't we have a look at the centerness of strike, how we can ensure that we're getting a center strike more often? Because if you've got a perfectly square club face angle, or where you're looking for, and you've got a great swing path that's matching it to produce a great ball flight, if you're hitting out of the toe or heel, it's going to make the golf shot spray offline again. So if you'd like me to do a video on this topic, be sure to drop a comment down below asking for that, and I'll have a look at getting that video done for you. In the meantime, be sure to check out this video here, as this will teach you how you can keep those center strikes up with the driver. And the bottom video here is the club path video from the part 1 of this series. So make sure you go and check that out as well if you haven't done so already. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.